I got my timer set here for just under an hour. No, I'll be brief today. I'm going to hit a lot of different scriptures. Today, we're going to talk about fulfill your function. Fulfill your function. So, we're going to go through some of the biblical leaders. And if you've studied covenants in the Bible before, you'll recognize these names as people who God established a covenant with. And so we're going to go in chronological order. We're going to start with Adam in the garden. Genesis 1:28. It says, God blessed them and said to them. Now notice here that you have a couple. You have a couple, Adam and Eve, and God's talking to both of them. He says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. So here we have what's sometimes called the Dominion Charter or the Creation Mandate. And as you'll see with our next biblical character, that there's a very similar mandate. We're going to move on to Noah. In Genesis 9:1, it says, God blessed Noah and his sons. So here we go from a couple to a family. And he said to them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. Wow, this is almost the exact same mandate. So these guys have a function to fulfill in the earth, and so do we. What happened was there was a worldwide flood, and we know that Noah and his family were the only ones to make it through the flood. And after the flood, where God destroyed everyone on earth because all of mankind had become evil, he swore he would never do that again. And so as we're going forward, Noah is very unique in that he was the only one who made it through that transition from one age, pre-flood to post-flood. The other guys, there's many people on the earth as they're transitioning the age. After Noah, we have Abraham. Abraham in Genesis 17:4, God says to Abraham, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you. You will be the father of a multitude of nations. So God's talking to Abraham as a father, and he's saying, not only are you going to have a family with 3 sons and daughters and grandchildren, but you're going to have nations coming out of you. So we know Abraham had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob. Jacob, his name was changed to Israel, and Israel had 12 sons who became the 12 tribes of Israel. Abraham had another son other than Isaac, and that son also had 12 sons. So we see a massive multiplication coming through Abraham. Going on down to Moses, in Deuteronomy 34:4, it says, Yahweh said to him. So we know Yahweh is God's name. And if you want to see God's name printed in the Bible, I can recommend the World English Bible to you because it's all over the place. If you include Old Testament and New Testament, you're looking at possibly up to 7,000 instances of God's name Yahweh. So Yahweh said to him, this is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to your offspring. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. This is Yahweh speaking to Moses. And we know Moses took the children of Israel out of slavery in Egypt. He took them through the wilderness and got them to the promised land. These are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who I made a covenant with. Now here's the land that they're going to possess. When they got into the land, they eventually wanted a king like all the other kingdoms. First they had Saul, who didn't do such a great job. And then behind him came the glorious king David, we know as a man after God's own heart. And what does God say to David in 1 Chronicles 17:8? This is really, really amazing. I have been with you wherever you have gone. Imagine God being with you, in you, by your side, coaching you every step of the way in your life. How incredible is that? Yeah. But there's more, and he says, and have cut off all your enemies from before you. David never failed. Every enemy he encountered, he overcame because he had that spirit of Yahweh in him. And it says, I will make you a name like the name of the great ones who are in the earth. Right. Everyone was a huge fan of Moses. Everyone knew Abraham. They had heard of Noah and Adam, the first son of God. And so now here's David. Yahweh is saying, your name is going to be great as all the great people who came before you. You're going to be among these great ones. We know there was a man who came to earth. He was also known as the Son of God, but he was also known as the Son of David, and his name was Jesus, or Yeshua in Hebrew. Matthew 3:17, it says, now this is the story where Jesus is being baptized by John, and the dove descends on him, and he's receiving his public commission to do the work that God called him to do, to fulfill his function in the earth. Behold, Matthew 3:17, a voice out of the heavens said, this is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. To kick off his ministry, God spoke right out of the heavens instead of using what he normally uses, which is a human voice to speak his words in the earth. A voice boomed right out of nothing. Matthew 17:5, this happens again. It says, while he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. This is the story of Jesus on the mountain. This is the story of the transfiguration. He was there with Moses. He was there with Elijah. And it says, behold, a voice came out of the cloud. So there's this glory cloud around them. It's a bright cloud. It's not a dark, gloomy, terrifying cloud. It's a bright cloud, almost like being in a mist. This voice says, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. So this is Jesus at the end of his ministry, right before he gets arrested and ends up going to the cross. Jesus was given the instruction to fulfill his function in the earth. My dad likes to hold up this little man, and on it says, you and me and Christ, and together is us. You and me, we have a function in the earth. Right. We have a function to fulfill. Like those before us, we are going to transition from the last age into the next age. That's what we're doing right now. We are going to continue to usher in the kingdom of Yahweh here on the earth. Right. We're going to eradicate evil, and we are going to generate good. We are going to spring forward into the greatness of God here on the earth. I want to use this allusion to an archer. When you're an archer, there's a specific set of steps that you do. See how this works here. You want to aim for the highest heights. You want to keep your eyes on the target. Right. You want to allow Yahweh to fill your lungs. You want to release his presence into the earth. Sing a joyful song to Yahweh, all you his people. Yes, Lord. Amen. My challenge to you today is to fulfill your function. Fulfill your function. God has given you a function to fulfill here in the earth. So listen to his voice and obey and do the work that he has given you to do. We love you.